Every year, like clockwork, I hear the same discussions happening about Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party versus Halloween Horror Nights. People want to compare the two events, people want to see which one is the better value, and I get it, because Disney and Universal, they're two titans in the theme park industry that many people think are like fierce competitors. So, people on Team Disney really want Mickey's Not So Scary to be the best event in the area, and people on Team Universal are like, obviously it's Halloween Horror Nights. And truthfully, I've had some pretty strong opinions about this topic, and spoiler alert, they haven't changed. But this year, 2025, is the first year that I've attended both of these events, honestly only a few weeks apart from each other. So I wanted to sit down and I wanted to talk to you about them. I want to talk to you about Mickey's Not So Scary, I want to talk to you about Halloween Horror Nights, I want to compare the two and have an honest discussion with you about what event might be the best fit for you and your family, but also I want to devote a little bit of time to discussing whether it's Disney or Universal who does the event that they do better. It's sure to be an interesting discussion, and I'm glad you're here for it. So yeah, get comfortable and let's dig in. So first things first, let's start with the basics. We're just going to scratch the surface here, but we are going to get into more detail later. Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and Halloween Horror Nights are both Halloween-themed events that take place on multiple nights starting in August and running through the end of spooky season. Both events are separately ticketed, meaning that you can't get into either with a standard day ticket to Magic Kingdom, which is where Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party takes place, or Universal Studios Florida, which is where Halloween Horror Nights takes place. You'll have to buy an extra ticket if you want to attend either event. For both events, the ticket price is going to vary depending on when you want to attend. For Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, the most expensive ticket was $229 per person plus tax. For Halloween Horror Nights, the most expensive ticket that we were able to find was $140 per person plus tax. Now, it's important to note here that Halloween Horror Nights does have some additional extras that can drive that ticket price per person up pretty quickly, depending on what you want your experience to be like. There are tours, there are express passes. They also have tickets available so you can attend multiple nights throughout the entire season. Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party is different in that way, not offering the same variety of ticket types, though they do have some add-ons like a dessert party for the fireworks, similar to what they offer during a standard day. Both events are also what you might describe as after-hours events, taking place after the park closes to day guests. And that also means that for both of these events, the park where they take place is going to close early, which is important to know if you're not attending, but you are going to be visiting one of the theme parks on that day. For Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, the event starts at 7 p.m. and runs through midnight, but you can get into the park starting at 4 p.m., so you get a little extra time in Magic Kingdom, and that means you have about 8 hours of park time with your ticket, which works out to around $29 per hour before tax. For Halloween Horror Nights, the event starts at 6:30 p.m. and runs until 2 a.m., which means you have about 7.5 hours at this event, which is roughly $19 an hour plus tax, which ultimately breaks down to Halloween Horror Nights being the more affordable event on the most expensive night of the season, that is. Of course, again, this is going to vary based on the night you choose to attend and the options you choose to add on to your ticket, especially if you're going to Halloween Horror Nights. This could easily go the opposite direction if we were considering doing tours or having express pass, and the difference between the two could honestly be a lot more significant depending on what night we're looking at. I just opted to choose the most expensive night for the sake of discussion. Now, we started with price point today because I know that for a lot of people that's what they look at, but if we're being honest with each other, this is really a terrible way to decide which event is best for you because both events are very, very different in more ways than one. One way in which both these events are night and day is what exactly they're offering you. And I'm not just talking about how one is not so spooky and one has horror right in the name. Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party is very much a late night at Magic Kingdom. While it does include a Halloween twist, it is, above all else, time in the park to do things that you otherwise would do in Magic Kingdom on a normal day. You're there to ride the rides, see a fireworks show, maybe a stage show, maybe a parade. And you'll notice I say maybe because this is all all contingent on the weather, with the most reliable things, the things that you can count on, being the same types of things that you would do on any other day at the park. Now, there are party exclusives that are only going to be available during Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, to include menu items. The fireworks, stage show, and parade are all exclusive to the party. You can go trick-or-treating, and there are some character sightings, and there's some other entertainment that pops up around the park. Though it is important to note that a lot of that is hit or miss and very heavily dependent on the weather. But again, for the most part, what you're getting is time at Magic Kingdom after dark. Halloween Horror Nights, on the other hand, is a completely different thing, offering guests an entirely separate experience from what they'd be getting if they spent the day at Universal Studios Florida. Yeah, there is some crossover there, with some attractions being open, for example. But a bulk of what you're getting as part of Halloween Horror Nights simply isn't available during normal park operation. It is its own thing. And so in that way alone, we're looking at two very different types of events, but when we look at the content, they get even more different. And it's at this point where comparing the two, especially when we're talking about things like pricing and quality of the event, kind of gets a little bit ridiculous. But you'll see what I mean here in a second. So Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, for example, it's right in the name. Not so scary. It's an event that's ideal for families of all ages who want to experience a little bit of Halloween fun. And quite frankly, I do think that it can be enjoyed by everyone. Personal preferences aside, I'm pretty confident that anyone and everyone can attend Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and not feel outside their comfort zone, or like this was a little too intense or too much, On the other hand, Halloween Horror Nights, it's right in the name. Horror. This event isn't a little bit of a spooky twist. It's a giant haunted house. Well, I suppose you could say it's more along the lines of a giant haunted house meets Epcot Festival. As you're wandering through the park, you're making your way through different scare zones, which are varying levels of scary. There are also haunted houses, and like I mentioned, there are food booths. There's also live entertainment as well. And look, Universal's very clear about what this event is and who it's geared towards, which, quite frankly, isn't everybody. If you don't want to be scared, or you don't want your kids in a more adult-friendly environment, which this is without question, Halloween Horror Nights is not for you. And honestly, if we go back to some of the things that I hear people say year after year, I don't really care how much more expensive Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party is, or whether or not the event is as good a quality as Halloween Horror Nights. The family of 5 whose kids are all under the age of 10 and got really spooked by It's Tough to Be a Bug have no business being at Halloween Horror Nights. Now, for clarity's sake, that's not to say that the right family, even if you have younger kids, can't enjoy Halloween Horror Nights. You need to know your family, know what works and what doesn't, and think about whether or not being chased around by chainsaws and life-size rabid cats are going to cause undue stress and trauma. But at the end of the day, when we're comparing these two events, that's the type of thing we need to be focusing on, not whether or not it's more affordable. Because look, at the end of the day, it's not even like we're comparing apples and oranges here. Those are both fruits. You know what I'm saying? We're looking at juice box versus hard liquor. These events are in no way interchangeable. Now, that said, I did still want to touch on something. I know I kind of alluded to this earlier. Some of you may have been eagerly awaiting my comments on this, and that is who, in my opinion, does the event that they do better. Now look, again, for those in the back, these two events are two very different things. I know this is something I've said ad nauseum, but there are some people who have gotten to this point and still don't get it. So just in case you haven't caught that yet, I say it again. They're two separate types of events. They're not going to be right for everybody. And what I'm about to say now should not drive your decision to attend one versus the other. You need to decide that based on what your family wants and is capable of handling. But at the end of the day, I am pretty confident in saying that Universal, they do their event better than Disney does. I mean, look, I know I mentioned it earlier, but Mickey's Not So Scary isn't really an event in the same way that Halloween Horror Nights is an event. It's really just a ticket to Magic Kingdom once the sun goes down, with a few Halloween offerings peppered in. And that list of offerings, that list of special offerings that are only available during the event, really isn't that significant, especially when you consider that there's a whole chunk of it that isn't really structured or scheduled, and then there's so much of it that gets canceled if there's inclement weather. That's just not the case with Halloween Horror Nights, given that so much of what's being offered as part of the event is available rain or shine. I also found that what was available during Halloween Horror Nights was more accessible than what was being offered as available during Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. We actually talked about this when we were discussing Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. If you caught our review and things you need to know about that event, it was one of our criticisms actually, that even though there was this list of things going on, there was no real structure to the event, so it was easy to miss them. We found there to be much more consistency and reliability even when it comes to the offerings that were over at Halloween Horror Nights, with things like scare zones running continuously throughout the evening. And while, again, scare zones are different from circus performers over at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, I do feel that there are ways that Disney could do something similar. In fact, they do over in Disneyland for Oogie Boogie Bash with their treat trails. It seems like Disney World was dabbling into this a little bit this year, adding characters to at least one of the treat trail lines. But again, the consistency just wasn't there, making it feel like you were on this endless chase to see the things that were supposed to be available when you're at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, but it was a much more fluid, casual experience over at Halloween Horror Nights. We also felt that with Halloween Horror Nights, there was a lot more effort invested into the event, just as a whole. Scare zones, for example, were an opportunity to tell a story and really lean into a theme. And you could see the same thing with the food booths that were peppered throughout the park. These weren't just generic booths. They were heavily themed, and the food they were serving up was also pretty well themed and delicious. I also think it's worth noting that there were a ton of carts around the event as well, offering standard stuff like turkey legs. I think they had some churros and pretzels as well. So if lines were way too long over here or way too long over there, you still had a place to get a bite, and I really appreciate that. But when you put all this together, the little common sense things that made the event run a tiny bit smoother, and you combine that with Universal's willingness to flex their creative muscle, Universal takes the cake with Halloween Horror Nights. But look, I want to hear from you. If you've attended both of these events in the past, which one stands out to you? Which one is a better fit for your family, and why? Like I said before, and I'm going to say it again right here, right now, they are two very different types of events. And something as simple as which one is more affordable is really not the best way to decide which one is right for you. Honestly, even talking about who does the event that they do better isn't a good way to decide which event is right for you. It really comes down to if you want spooky fun or if you want horror. But still, I want to hear all of your thoughts, so pop them in a comment down below. Also, let me know if you plan on attending either of these events in the future. For me, even though we had a great time at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, I don't think we're going to attend again next year. Though we're definitely going to be doing Halloween Horror Nights again, hopefully more than just once. But yeah, like I said, share your thoughts in a comment down below, and have a great rest of your day. Until next time, guys. Bye.